I was
1 in 3, I
a
think.
teenager, right, and they said it was 1 in 5. I tell you now, every group of 1 in 5 girls that I was in, like there was always one. That stat was on point. There was always one that had gone through some kind of sexual abuse, and then, and like I've only got 4 friends, but then there was when you're in a group of 5, there's one. There's always one, and then you just kind of go, we don't know how to talk about it, but we're not even, what are the signs so that we don't ignore it?
Yeah.
We can't ignore it. We actually have to go, hey, look out for that girl, look out for that boy. Like, don't just ignore these signs instead of going, oh, she's promiscuous, she's blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Hey, cut those labels. There's something else happening in that young person's life that we need to pay attention to. And if we're not taught this, we just go on labeling, and that poor person just goes on going, I'm just trying to find something to heal myself, man.
Of course.
I'm trying to respond to the freaking trauma that I didn't ask for. I'm trying to recover what some asshole just took away from me.
Of course.
And that's how you've lived. You're just trying to recover, get it back. And everyone else around you is going, labeling. But I can guarantee now, we're all also the back of our heads.
Yeah.
People know something's up, but we're not given the
opportunity
the
to
tools.
the tools,
to do something. You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot of people that don't know my story, right?
Yeah.
So when you say there's 1 in 5, I would pretty much say it's probably more like 3 in 5.
Yeah, I think it has come down to 1 in 3
because
today.
come on, when we do census stats, you only give the information you want to give. Are you going to tell someone that this is what happened to me when I was 5 years old? It's that type of conversation that there is a lot more than what is actually issued in stats and in data. Because my story, I would never have been brave enough to open up about what happened to me. If I did not finally want my healing. For me to finally want my healing means I have to face what happened to me when I was 5 years old. So can you only imagine the amount of women or men who have never said anything? So those stats I feel sometimes aren't actually real. I feel like it's more than the 1 in 5. And so when I used to be on air and share stories and talk about that, the vulnerability, you would always constantly hear these stories come on, like someone's been charged for, sexual rape or abuse or whatever. But it was when that happened when they were like, oh, so think about it, the Royal Commission of Abuse, right? If you've heard about that, how people used to be abused in state care and in faith-based churches.
Yeah.
For people to finally bring that up and be able to face it is the reason why we have seen people who have gone down a wrong path, because they have not dealt with it when they needed to have, right? So now this day and age, we have the resources, we have the tools, we have all of these things to be able to now finally face up to that I was abused. But at the same time, like you work in the field, you don't want to re-traumatize people. But at the same time, again, I feel like that word has been thrown out too many times because
there's a safeguard, eh?
Yeah, I get that there is a safeguard because we live in a day and age where no one wants to be pinned for anything anymore. You don't want to be saying the wrong thing because someone will either sue you because you never said, So because of that, it's just like, damn, we love words, but then we can't say the words that we need to say to be able to vocalize the fact that someone, I'm going to be honest, someone fucking raped me. Someone effing did something to me when I was 5 years old, either fingered me, either abused me, touched me where they didn't need to be touched. All of those things. It's like you would never see often a Pacific woman come out and say the very thing that somebody did to them. I get it out of respect because we are very much a people. We have to respect, but I'm just like, but if we never say what it is, then we are again, that's the re-traumatization, is that we are just trying to peddle around and pretty things up. When it
that is the worst.
And that's the worst thing you can do. I was just like, I'm sorry, if someone was fingering me when I was little, that wasn't pretty. And I can't pretty that up any other way. Mm-hmm. You did something to me that was literally taking away my innocence, and you thought, the perpetrator, you thought that you could get away with it. And that's the thing. There are a lot of people who have been charged, gone to jail for rape, for sexual abuse, all of these things. But do you know how many people have not gone to jail for what they've done to our children? Do you know, like, that is those stats I would like to see.
Yeah.
It's because we have not become brave enough to say that someone, often within our families, has done something to us. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, you've got perpetrators walking around right now who had done something to you 15, 20, 30, even 40, 50 years ago. They will never have their day in court, maybe before Jesus. But do you understand, we live in this land, and it's just, it's just unfortunate that there will be, and that is why I am a big advocate for speaking on behalf of people, because their story will never be told. Their person will never go to jail. Their person will never be punished for the crime that they did. And it's just like, I am very much, heaven forbid that anything ever happens to our children, right?
Yeah.
We are very much in that space where we would never. But I'm sure my parents were like that too. I'm sure they never thought.
Did they know?
No, they didn't know.
You didn't?
Until I was 23. Jeez. Until I finally was going through some stuff, right? And then I finally opened up to my mother.
What was her reaction?
Not the one that I expected.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not the one that I expected.
Yeah.
But again, a woman who came from a place where she wouldn't have known how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And but it caused me again to re-hate my mother, you know? And that's a hard thing to swallow sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I really did, at a point in my life, not like her. Because she, if I'm going to be honest, wanted it to be swept under the carpet again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just, again, that re-trauma, it was like the one person I think I really wanted to believe me didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, no, let me rephrase that. She believed me, but I just did not want to face it and deal with it, which really hurt me a lot as an adult again. But please, no, I forgive me. Like, you know, we've come to a place where we had gone through that. But at that moment and at that time, it was really hard to swallow.
Yeah.
A very hard pill to swallow because,
Using your superpower of empathy, why do you think Mum did that?
She wanted to keep the va.
Yeah. And it's a massive trade-off, eh?
Wanted to keep the va between family. Which for me, I'm like, hey, I would take you down the road. I would take you down the road and shoot you right now. Like, you know, just saying that. But I have come to a place where I've really, maybe it's even more part of the grief that I'm feeling now with my mum gone. I'm feeling like there is a healing that to understand, you know, like I say, man, God, you've taken me out of so many things. Like, do you know, like for me, it's like I can't keep turning around and been mad at someone yet knowing that what God has afforded me all the time. Like, how do you save someone all the time, but then yet still come up and still be angry? Yeah. You know, it's just, it doesn't make sense.
But I liked what you said earlier. You said there's a reason why people do what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and like you just said about Mum, she had to hold, there was something else. She probably did feel the grief of hearing that from you.
Yeah.
The bigger picture for her, like if I now address this, all of this stuff, that she's probably seeing the picture. What
I now know, and that's probably maybe sucks because it's like she's gone. But what I now know and what I've had to channel and work through and navigate through is that I think her biggest grief was not to try and keep the va. It's just I feel like she felt guilty that she did not protect me.
Yeah, wow.
That's really where it comes from.
She has to live with that.
Oh yeah, and you know, and because I had to look at myself and say, how would I have felt if something had, heaven forbid again, happened to my child? I would be beside myself that I was not there to prevent that.
Yeah.
And you know, my parents, all our parents came from the islands. They just had to go work, right, and the kids would be okay at home. Yeah, unfortunately that didn't happen. But so for me, it's like they obviously only just knew what they knew. And they learned what they learned. So yeah, I give it up to my mother. Because my mother, and that's the other thing, I always have to look at where she came from. She was, if you see the gap between her and my father, I mean, she married my father when she was only about 22 years old. My dad was 40-something.
Wow.
And she took on his children. So for me, I always have to understand that, you know, I may have had issues growing up, but I'm sure she had many herself. And the weight that she had to carry and take on and be such a young single woman and marry a man who's already like got kids and, you know, I have to give it up to her. I know, and then she was plucked out of the islands, came with my father over here. So it's a whole new world, right? So I understand that there are things that my mum has gone through that I feel like I wish I'd just taken the time to have understood her more and her story rather than just being bloody mad at her about life because you didn't do what I needed you to do for me. Yeah.
Mandate.